Hello, readers. Welcome to the cover reveal of The 12 Trials of Doug by Jeremy Brundage. How are you this fine day, Jeremy?
I am feeling wonderful.
Nice. Well, I'm going to read your bio real quick to give the audience a little clue of who you are. Only a little one, but a little clue. Jeremy Brundage has worked as a stonemason, a carpenter, an artist, an animatronics engineer, and more. He is working on several projects with his brother, James A. Owen, for Coppervale Studios, and assists in creating armor for the SCA at Windrose Armory. Jeremy writes comedy, fantasy, and science fiction, sometimes combining all three. Welcome. So you hold many jobs. I think that's pretty common for writers.
I don't know how to do one thing, but I'm terrible at multitasking. So I don't know how any of this works. It just somehow things get done.
I call it fuel for your writing. That's what this was. All these years.
That sounds
It was just
good.
Practice. It was just practice, so you have more things to write about. Knowing a
time,
little bit about a lot of things makes for good writing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Well, we don't like the people to suffer for the cover reveal, so I say we just pull the cloth off and let's see what that cover looks like.
Sounds good.
All right. And here we go. Look at that awesome cover. I love it.
Pretty cool.
What do you think about it, Jeremy?
You know, I love the colors of it. I love the fact that the black of the silhouettes isn't all just one solid color. It's actually kind of a little bit worn. And I don't know. I think it's a great cover. I think it's going to look great on a shelf. I actually am kind of excited to see what the spine is going to look like.
Yes.
Because that's what people see a lot of the times when a book is on the shelf. I don't know. I think it's going to be great. And I'm kind of excited for how the next couple of books are going to look too, because I want to see how that set's going to look on the shelf when I get the entire series done.
Right? We have to decide if we want to use the same colors. I think different colors might be fun. But the whole inspiration for this was like a Greek vase, right?
Yeah.
So we have the different layers and the different patterns on there and the little heroic scene. And of course, we have Doug on the cover, and he is obviously the title character in this book. He is not the only person in here, but he's definitely the one the story hinges on the most. So let me read the back cover copy, and then I have some questions about Doug. So I would go to Hades and back for you, an easy thing to say, a much harder thing to really mean. In an ancient Greek world of monsters and legends and gods, Doug wants to make it on his own without the influence of his father's reputation. It's a universal tale. In the kingdom of Larissa, far from the home of his birth, Doug is making a pretty good start. He has a steady job selling dairy treats as a franchise location, and Doug's outlook is bright. Then Doug meets Princess Larissa, and the two fall madly for each other. But her father, the king, will have none of it. After all, Doug appears as nothing more than a yogurt slinger, not nearly good enough for the princess. Doug must prove his worth. Under the orders of a dark influence, the king challenges Doug to complete 12 tasks. Doug makes the only decision a hormonal, confident young man can. He accepts. While Larissa stays in Larissa to search out the source of the king's odd behavior, Doug takes his nerdy brother, Modifixius, on a trip of a lifetime. Along with a gaggle of automatons and the blessing of Zeus, Doug finds himself over his head almost immediately. If he doesn't find a way to complete the tasks, Larissa and all of Greece will fall to the dark influence. Even worse, Doug and Larissa won't get that magical kiss they just know is in their future, if they survive long enough to experience it. Going to Hades was a given. It was the and back part that looked iffy. I love it. I'm so excited.
That sounds like a good book. I should write something like that.
You should. Well, you know what happens to have happened. So Doug, I love this. So obviously we are looking at Greek, right? I mean, if you didn't know it by looking at the cover, I don't know what you were thinking, right? But the cover definitely says Greece. The back cover is Greece. I'm wondering, why did you choose ancient Greece to put this story?
I have always loved ancient Greece. When I was in grade school, like third or fourth grade, they had a book of Greek myths called Dulier's Book of Greek Myths. Mm-hmm. That was in the library, and I would check it out, and then my older brother would check it out, and then I would check it out, and then my older brother would check it out. And so you just have our names just rotating through the little slip there. I loved it. It was very formative. I loved the depth of the stories. It's amazing how many of those things are actually part of our just culture. They've influenced just about everything, because that's basically the seed of thought for Western civilization.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, Florida Kevin wants everyone to know that Jeremy is funny AF. Just so you know. No pressure.
He hasn't seen it since we've done all the edits, Kelly.
Wait, are you saying we took all the funny out? Wait, what are you trying to say?
We didn't take all the funny out, but man, I sent you a lot of stuff to actually go through. You know, it is a far different story than what we actually originally started with. Well,
it's definitely a different story. However, the funny and the voice is still all you. That we didn't change at all. So it is hilarious. And it is 100. I couldn't fake that voice if I wanted to. Like, your voice is extremely unique. And I'm wondering, how long did it take you to like develop this voice?
50 years.
You're like, it's just me on the page.
I have a weird sense of humor. I've always had kind of a weird sense of humor. And a lot of times it seems like people don't get what I'm actually going at. It's different when you're actually writing something, because then they can go and read it. Oh, this is what he meant. When I just say it in passing, sometimes it just goes right over the top. But
yeah, some dude named James Artemis Owen says that he can confirm.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
It's correct.
It's even worse on Fridays. You get to the end of a Friday, it's been a long week, and all the filters are gone. So then
wait. You have filters?
Yes. Hard to believe, but yes.
Interesting. I love it. Well, when we're looking at the cover, we're seeing Doug, as we talked about, sitting, and on these vases it was inspired by, there's always big heroic scenes, and there's, men with spears fighting ferocious beasts, and, women in peril, and, all of these huge things. And for this one, we have Doug sitting, and he's talking to a rather petite dog. That should tell people that Doug is kind of a different hero. Yes. Why did you decide to make Doug that way instead of the traditional hero in Greek mythology?
So many times we have these heroes that everybody's looking up to, and it's because they are the strongest and they are the meanest and they can do things that nobody else can do. And it's very rare that you actually look up to somebody just because they're kind. And Doug, it's probably his one quality that is most consistent throughout the thing is he is just a kind person. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He wants to be with the princess, but he doesn't want to actually have anybody suffer for him to actually do that. And so it's kind of a different take on a hero, because he is a hero, undoubtedly. This is a very self-sacrificing, heroic type person. But he just doesn't do it by going in and beating up everybody. I really like him. I think Doug is an unbelievably good character, and I hope other people are going to like the qualities that he actually has as well.
Oh, for sure. He's really why. I mean, the voice, your humor, it's funny, and it gets us through a lot of horrible things that happen in the book. But it's Doug that really keeps you on, right? It's his hopefulness and the way his outlook on life and his ability to keep going. Those are the things that really get us by in life. They might not be the things that we sit down and say we admire, but they really are the things that get us through. So I'm really glad that you wrote the hero like this. So thank you for that.
A lot of times you have something hard happen, and your response is, I just can't believe this. And Doug cracks a joke and keeps going.
And keeps going.
And a lot of times that's what we need to do instead of focusing on how bad everything's gotten. You see what you can humor-wise out of the situation. You think this is going to make a great story later, and then you take the next step. You keep on moving.
And keep going. That probably is the very central of heroism that we don't actually talk about. So
Yeah.
I love that. And in this book, he is not alone. So his brother goes with him, Maud. And so this next story features him and his brother and a special guest star. So are you ready? Are you ready?
Sure.
Excellent. All right, let's dive in and hear a little bit about Doug and Maud.
A nice day for a stroll. A day or two later, in the city of Larissa, Doug led his adoptive brother, Motifixius, through the midday crowds of the city marketplace. The huge square in the center of town was filled with just about every sight, sound, and smell available in ancient Greece. A chaotic collection of things bought and sold, deals made in whispered voices or yelled at the top capacity of lungs. Housewares, farming implements, livestock, cheeses, vegetables, wines, entertainments, and practical everyday necessities passed from one hand to another in a pattern played out day after day in a manner that felt fresh and new, eternal and unchanging. Doug didn't really care about any of those things he passed by. He was intent on being somewhere. The two young men walked along a path that wound through the livestock pens. To one side of Doug and his brother, goats screamed in stupid abandon as they did their best to climb on top of one another. On the other side of the path, ducks stared glumly through the bars of their cages. Motifixius hunched over and fiddled with something in his hands as he walked. Doug led on. Motifixius followed Doug on a sort of ethereal tether. There was a delay in Motifixius's directional recognition response, but aside from that, he usually arrived at the intended destination. They worked out this system a long time ago, Doug in front, Motifixius trailing, and it worked for the most part. Doug paused as the hackles on the back of his neck stood up. Motifixius bumped into the back of Doug before his brother could turn around. What was that? Motifixius didn't even bother to look up. Dunno. Doug scanned to the crowd behind him. He was almost certain he saw that same hooded, cloaked guy from the other day following him. Maybe nothing? After a bit, Doug gave up and tugged on his brother's shoulder to get him moving forward again. Doug needed something to distract his mind from the sense he was being followed. The ungulates are rather chipper today, don't you think, Maud? Doug said to his brother as he pointed out the animal perched precariously atop a writhing goat pile. I currently identify more with the duck's view of things myself. Maud looked up briefly before he turned his attention back to whatever he held in his hands. The odd, shiny, spherical mechanism twisted and spun. Maud prodded and poked at the metal plates of the device. He paid more attention to the gadget than the crowd. Doug knew Maud was like that, at least in public. His brother didn't like being out in the middle of things. Maud would much rather see how something was built, or take the same thing apart to put it back together again, or study a scroll. Anything that wasn't social or out in public, really. Doug was glad Maud loved him enough to follow him, and Doug really wanted Maud to come with him today. Maud only acted like himself when he was at home, or in a shop, or in a small group of people he loved or cared for. Doug really understood and did his best to shield his brother while keeping him a part of things. He continually reached over to redirect Maud before he crashed into this or that. Directing Maud was only difficult sometimes, like when Doug was distracted by the feeling he was being followed. The crowd grew thicker. All the crazy, loud weirdos must be out today, Maud said as he twisted a knob on the side of the device. He still hadn't looked up. Is it a festival or something? Doug spun around. That feeling was back, like someone was right behind him. Maud walked right into Doug, took a step to the right, and continued forward. Doug was almost sure he'd seen someone before Maud stumbled into him. Almost. Dang it, Maud! Would it hurt to just look where you're going? Doug risked another look behind him. Maud exhibited excellent timing, choosing that moment to plow into an incredibly large, overly muscled man who wore a lion skin as a cloak. The machine fumbled from Maud's hand. "Aw, man, you made me drop it." The guy Maud bumped was half the size of Olympus and looked to have the temperament of Lissa with a toothache. Doug's stomach dropped, and he tried to steer Maud into the anonymity of the crowd. Instead, the crowd split around them, like two giant invisible hands pushed the people to one side or the other, leaving Doug, Maud, and the burly Titan in the center of an impromptu arena. An air of quiet descended over the entire area. Even the goats stopped screaming. It was the sudden silence from the goats that really drove it home for Doug. Goats were notorious spectators and facilitators of barnyard brawls. They most likely get that particular trait from the fawn side of the family. Doug was pretty sure he saw a couple of nannies placing bets and a big Billy acting as a bookie. This is bad, Doug gulped. Of all the times to get distracted, Maud? The big Billy winked at Doug. Go down in the second round. It'd be worth your while. The goat then sized up Doug and Maud's competition one more time. If you can make it that long, he added. The nannies looked skeptical, altering their bets for the two young men to go down in the first. Hoping the goats were wrong, Doug risked a glance to see how he stacked up against the competition. Maybe if I had a phalanx of, say, 300 Spartans? Doug considered. The giant straightened, the muscles in his back rippling. Better make that 2 phalanx, Doug corrected. The giant stiffened and turned slowly toward Maud, veins in his forehead humped out, his face a tachycardic red. You dare? The question was punctuated by a spray of angry spittle. Maud wiped at the moisture on his cheek as he bent down and picked up the machine. No harm done. Just watch where you're going. You could have busted it. And with a clueless mutter, my brother kills us both. Doug gaped at Maud. He rapidly prayed for a bit of luck, something like an unexpected hero to come to his rescue. The gambling goats upped the ante. A tufted duck from across the way waved his bill as he tried to horn in on the action. With a palpable tension in the air, the Billy stopped accepting bets. The big vein on the giant's forehead pulsed like an overinflated balloon, and his eyes bulged fully out of their sockets. Have I seen the two of you before? Doug recognized Maud was lost in an engineer's daze, so it was up to Doug to quell the anger of someone he assumed had to be a Titan. Forgive us, my lord, for interrupting your peaceful midday stroll. It's quite possible you've seen us, though we've only been here local for a little while. Doug gulped and continued. I have a job selling yogurt. This guy here hangs out by my stall sometimes. You may have chanced upon either of us in that vicinity, but you... Doug made note of the man's rippling biceps and swallowed again, hard. Don't seem to be the yogurt chomping type. No, the man replied. We're originally from Iaclus, if you've ever been that way before, Doug offered. It's a place much beloved by both of us that we'd really like to see again. So... He grabbed Maud by the shoulders and attempted to steer him away from the situation. By your leave, my lord. Doug scraped and bowed, and pushed his brother to do likewise. Maud, not understanding why his brother shoved him, planted his feet and fiddled with the contraption. He fumbled it and dropped it squarely on the giant's exposed toe. Apparently, the device was heavier than it looked. The giant's eyes rolled up and steam poured from his ears. Maud, oblivious, bent over, picked up the device, and began poking at it again. Doug, now fearing for their lives, pulled Maud back and gave an uncomfortable explanation. Apologies, kind and gentle sir. My friend is haunted by furies. They attack if he looks up, so he pays attention to the gadget in his hand to distract himself from madness. The giant seemed unconvinced. Doug reached into a pouch at his waist and pulled out an ostracon. He really didn't want to do this, but it was probably the best way to ensure he and Maud didn't end up eating yogurt through straws for the foreseeable future. My father's name is written here. Show him this pot shard if you happen to be around Iaclus, and I swear he'll make it worth your while. Huh. As he read the name, the giant's temper cooled. Your father's name is very familiar to me. The great and powerful men of Greece honor and respect him. Why are you so far from home? Just trying to find my own, Doug replied. A little embarrassed, he couldn't defuse the situation without bringing up his father's name. The giant nodded in acknowledgement of Doug's answer, then growled and snorted. Your friend doesn't realize how close he just came to losing his head. Doug grinned sheepishly. He probably wouldn't have noticed if he had. The response made the giant laugh. He punched the support post of a nearby merchant tent, and the thick piece of wood broke neatly in two. The roof sagged, groaned, and dropped on the vendor and patrons inside. For the gift of mirth, I'll let you and your friend live. Watch the path you tread from this point on. I won't be so forgiving a second time. With that, the giant turned and disappeared into the crowd. Maud, God's love ya. You gotta pay more attention. Doug breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced over as arms and legs wriggled free of the collapsed building. Sorry for the mess. The vendor popped his head up out of the rubble. I'm pretty sure that was a son of Zeus. It could have gone a lot worse. And there we have it.
And it's only the beginning. Don't worry, it does go a lot worse.
Yeah, I don't treat my my hero very nice.
No. But that's why we love them. So
Exactly.
Yep. So nice. I'm so excited. We got a little bit of the humor in there. We've got a little bit of the relationship with Doug and Maud. I love that. They are very different people, but they both have big hearts. So I love that about them. And I do want to point out the talking goats.
Well, animals in ancient Greece, they all talk. It's just one of those things. You have all the Aesop's fables. You have people conversing. I mean, Midas. Well, they have talking reeds, talking jackasses, talking. There's so many. Those. Yeah, there's so many talking animals in ancient Greece, and I thought that's actually kind of a fun way to add a little bit more humor with the situation and the time.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you take the really serious stuff and not make it too serious. So it's really nice. So nicely done. I cannot wait until readers get a hold of this book. It is up for pre-order. We did post the links in all of the places, so it will be up for pre-order. So meanwhile, Jeremy, where can everyone find you and your work?
You can find me online. I'm on Facebook, Jeremy Brundage Owen. And I also have my website is jeremybrundage.com or paperhillwriting.com. And I'm on Instagram at jeremybrundage1.
The first and only.
The first and only.
First and only. I love it. I love it. Well, everyone, you are going to be excited. He does have a newsletter. Make sure to go to his website and you can join up for more hilarity. I'm assuming there's going to be hilarity in there. I have a feeling even if you tried not to be funny, it would be funny anyways.
It's a tragedy, yeah.
Ask my poor wife when she wants me to be serious. That's yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone in the crowd on the multiple platforms for coming in and saying hi. And we will see you soon. Oh, they covered the release. The release date is February 6th. And we're going to do a very special live release at Superstars Writing Seminar on February 6th. So that will be a lot of fun.
It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.